Some stories find us when we least expect them. This is one of those tales, a quiet story about land, about debt, and about the strange ways our past circles back to meet us. It takes place in Montana Territory, in a small town called Stillwater, during the spring of 1884, a time when a man's word was supposed to mean something, when debts were paid in handshakes and honor. Cole Sands never planned to come back. He had left this town 10 years ago after a bitter argument with his father, the kind of argument that leaves scars deeper than any knife. But death has a way of summoning even the most reluctant sons home. What he found waiting for him in Stillwater would change everything he thought he knew about his father, about himself, and about a woman he had never forgotten. The train whistle cut through the afternoon air like a blade. Cole Sands stood before the door could fully open, his worn leather bag already in hand. His legs had gone stiff from sitting too long, 2 days on hard wooden benches will do that to a man. The car was empty save for him, had been empty since Billings. Seemed fitting. A man returning to bury his ghosts ought to travel alone. The platform hit his boots with a hollow sound. His knees complained. He ignored them. Coal smoke hung thick in the air, mixing with the sharp bite of machine oil and something else underneath. Horse sweat, hay, the particular sweetness of Montana grass after a late spring rain. He stopped walking. 10 years since he had breathed this air, and his lungs remembered it like a hymn learned in childhood. The station was quiet. An old man dozed on a bench near the ticket window, hat pulled low over his face. A newspaper spread across his chest like a Sunday blanket. A fly buzzed lazy circles around his head. He did not stir as Cole passed. Main Street stretched before him, narrower than he remembered. Or maybe he had grown. Hard to say. The buildings looked the same false fronts and wooden awnings. Horses tied to hitching posts, switching their tails at flies. A wagon creaked past loaded with hay, the driver touching his hat brim in that way folks do when they do not quite recognize you but reckon they ought to be polite anyway. Same, but not the same. He walked slowly, cataloging changes. The barber shop had a new sign, red and white stripes, freshly painted. The hotel had added a second floor. Somewhere down the block, a dog barked twice and fell silent. Then he saw it. Hollis General Store. The sign hung crooked, one chain broken, paint peeled from the letters in long strips, revealing gray wood beneath. The windows were dark as closed eyes. A padlock hung from the door, rusted at the edges. Cole stared at it longer than he should have. Hollis. The name stirred something in his chest, a memory, maybe, or the shadow of one, like catching a scent that takes you back 30 years before you can name it. He forced himself to keep walking, 3 blocks more, past the white church with its steeple reaching toward heaven, past the blacksmith's shop where the ring of hammer on iron echoed steady as a heartbeat, past the widow Morrison's boarding house, where lace curtains still hung in every window, same as they had when his mother was alive. Then he saw it. Sands Land Office. The letters were faded now, barely readable through the grime. Dust coated the window so thick he could not see inside. A notice had been tacked to the door, something official, something legal, but he did not read it. His thumb found the scar on his left forearm, traced it slowly, from elbow to wrist. An old habit, 10 years old. He pulled the telegram from his coat pocket. Read it again, though he had memorized every word. Mr. Silas Sands, deceased. Estate requires settlement. Return to Stillwater immediately. Judge A. Whitfield. Cole folded the paper, slipped it back into his pocket. Sign the papers, he muttered. Sell the land. Get out. Nothing here for him anymore. Nothing but dust and old ghosts. Behind him, somewhere near the town square, a crowd was gathering, voices rising, the particular hum of folks pressed together, waiting for something. Cole did not turn around. He had his own business to attend to. But fate, it seemed, had other plans. If this story stirs memories of small towns and long journeys home, I would be grateful to know where you are reading from today. As the old folks used to say, a story shared is a story that lives on. Judge Whitfield's office smelled of pipe tobacco and old paper, the kind of smell that settles into walls over decades and never leaves. Stacks of documents covered every surface: the desk, the chairs, even the windowsill, where a coffee cup had left brown rings on yellowed deeds. 400 acres. The judge slid a folder across the desk. And the house. Your father left it all to you. Cole did not touch the folder. I want to sell everything. Whitfield's eyebrows rose. He leaned back, the chair groaning under his weight like it had groaned for 30 years. I'd reckon you might want to think on that, son. Land ain't something you sell in a hurry. Ain't nothing here for me no more. Your father, my father and I said everything we needed to say 10 years ago. The judge was quiet. His fingers drummed the armrest. Somewhere outside, voices rose the particular hum of a crowd gathering. Stay a few days, Whitfield said. Look the place over, then decide. Cole opened his mouth to refuse. A noise stopped him, louder now. Coming from the town square, men shouting numbers, a gavel striking wood. Whitfield's face changed, something tight around the eyes. What's going on out there? The judge did not answer. Cole crossed to the window, pushed aside the yellowed curtain. The square was full. 50 people, maybe more. Men in work clothes and dusty hats. Women at the edges, arms crossed, faces turned away. The smell of sweat and horses drifted up even through the closed window. A wooden platform had been built at the center. A man in a blue vest stood upon it, gavel raised. Beside him, a woman waited. Cole's breath caught. She stood straight as a fence post, chin lifted, hands clasped in front of her, knuckles white against faded blue calico. Dark hair pulled back, no bonnet. The man in the vest called out, 3-year labor contract. Who'll start the bidding? Cole's fingers found the scar on his forearm. The skin there burned hot. The woman's gaze swept the crowd, passed over the men calling numbers, passed over the women who would not meet her eyes. Then she looked up, toward the window. Their eyes met. 10 years fell away. He knew those eyes, knew the shape of that face, though, knew the steady calm that hid something fiercer underneath. Those hands had stitched his torn flesh back together in a cabin he had never found again. That woman had saved his life, then vanished before dawn. Cole pushed through the office door. His boots hit the boardwalk hard. The sound of the auction grew louder with each step, voices layered over voices. The sharp crack of a gavel, the shuffle of feet on packed dirt. $50. A farmer's voice, rough as sandpaper. Cole shouldered past a man in a brown coat, ignored the grunt of protest. 75. Younger this time, eager. The kind of eagerness that made Cole's stomach turn. He reached the edge of the crowd, bodies pressed together, smelling of sweat and chewing tobacco and the particular sourness of men who had ridden hard to get here. He pushed through, elbows knocked against him. Someone cursed under their breath. The woman on the platform had not moved. Her back was straight. Her jaw was set. She stared at a point somewhere above the crowd, refusing to look at the men calling out numbers like she was a mare at auction. $100 us. Say. The man in the blue vest done more. Someone had called him, pointed his gavel at a heavy-set man near the front. Mr. Garrison bids 100. Do I hear more? The heavy-set man grinned, gold tooth catching the light. She's young, strong, good for cooking, cleaning. He paused, let his eyes crawl over her. Other things too, I expect. Laughter rippled through the crowd, low, knowing. The woman's hands tightened. Her knuckles went white against the faded calico. Cole's thumb found the scar on his forearm, pressed hard enough to hurt. Rain. That was what he remembered most. Rain hammering a tin roof somewhere in the mountains, the smell of wood smoke and something sharp willow bark. Maybe boiled for fever. His arm had been on fire, the flesh torn open from a fall he barely remembered. Horse spooked, rocks, darkness, then light. A cabin. A young woman bending over him with a needle and thread. Her hands steady as stone while his blood soaked the blanket beneath him. She had not spoken much, had not needed to, just worked through the night, stitching him back together while the storm raged outside. He had tried to thank her, tried to ask her name, but the fever pulled him under before the words came. When he woke, she was gone. Fire burned down to embers, his arm bandaged tight with clean cloth that smelled of lye soap. He never saw her again, until now. 150. Garrison raised his hand. She's worth it. Look at them hips. More laughter, louder this time. Cole's jaw clenched. His teeth ached from the pressure. The woman finally looked down. Her eyes swept the crowd, passed over Garrison with something that might have been contempt, might have been resignation. Then she found Cole. Recognition flickered across her face. Her lips parted. No sound came out. Cole stepped forward. The crowd shifted around him. Men turned to look. Conversations died mid-word. He walked through the gap that opened before him. Past the farmers in their muddy boots. Past the ranchers with their silver belt buckles. Past Garrison, who squinted at him like he was trying to place the face. Cole stopped at the base of the platform, looked up at Dunmore. 400 acres. His voice carried across the square, steady, clear. The Sands land, all of it. Every acre my father left me. Silence. The gavel hovered in the air, forgotten. Dunmore blinked. His mouth opened and closed like a fish pulled from water. I'm sorry, what did you say? You heard me. Cole did not look at the banker. He looked at the woman. 400 acres. That's my bid. Murmurs spread through the crowd like ripples in a pond. Someone whistled low. Dunmore recovered. His eyes narrowed, calculating the value. Well now, that's quite an offer, Mr. Sands. He glanced at Garrison, then back at Cole. Quite an offer indeed. Take it or leave it. A long pause. The crowd held its breath. The gavel came down. Sold. The word echoed off the false fronts of the buildings. Garrison spat in the dirt and turned away, muttering. The crowd began to break apart, buzzing with talk that would spread to every kitchen table in town by supper time. Cole did not move. The woman stepped down from the platform, closer now, close enough that he could see the faint freckles across her nose, the lines of exhaustion around her eyes, the pulse jumping in her throat. You're alive, she said. Her voice was softer than he remembered, rougher too, like she had not used it much lately. Thanks to you. She stared at his arm, at the sleeve covering the scar she had stitched closed a decade ago. Something shifted in her face. The calm cracked. Underneath was something harder. I ain't a charity case. She stepped back, put distance between them. I don't need nobody buying me, not even to pay back some old debt. I didn't buy you. Then what do you call this? Cole met her eyes, held them. I bought back your freedom, the freedom you never should have lost. She stared at him. The square had gone quiet around them. Even the horses had stopped switching their tails. My name is Clara, she said finally. Clara Hollis. Hollis. The name hit him like a fist. Hollis General Store. The broken sign, the padlocked door, his father's office, 3 blocks away, gathering dust. What had Silas Sands done to the Hollis family? The house sat at the end of a dirt road, a mile outside town. 2 stories of weathered gray boards, a porch that sagged on one side where the posts had rotted through. Cole had not been here in 10 years. The place looked smaller than he remembered, older, tired. He pushed open the gate. The hinges screamed, rust flaking off in orange chips. Behind him, Clara's footsteps stopped. This was his house, she said. Cole did not turn around. It's all that's left. After tomorrow. Won't be mine neither. He climbed the porch steps. The 3rd one groaned under his weight, same as it always had. Some things never changed. Some things just got worse. The door was unlocked. It swung inward with a low creak, releasing a wave of stale air, dust, mildew, mouse droppings, and underneath it all, faint but unmistakable pipe tobacco. His father's smell. Cole stepped inside. White sheets covered the furniture like shrouds. The rocking chair by the cold fireplace, the settee against the wall. The desk in the corner where Silas had spent his evenings, poring over maps and contracts while the coal oil lamp burned low. Cobwebs hung from the ceiling beams in thick curtains. Something skittered across the floor upstairs, mice. Probably. Or maybe rats. The windows were so grimy the evening light barely came through. Cole found the lamp on the mantel, matches beside it in a tin box. He struck one. The sulfur smell filled his nostrils. The wick caught, sputtered, then held. Light bloomed across the walls. Shadows jumped and settled. Footsteps on the porch. Clara appeared in the doorway. She did not come inside. Her hands gripped the doorframe, knuckles tight against the wood. "I can sleep on the porch," she said. "Don't need to come in. There's 2 bedrooms upstairs. Take one." I said I don't need... You saved my life once. Cole set the lamp on the mantel, met her eyes. "Least I can do is offer you a bed and a roof." She stared at him. Her jaw worked, like she was chewing on words she did not want to swallow. Then she stepped inside. The floorboards creaked under her feet. She moved slowly, looking around at the shrouded furniture, the bare walls where paintings had once hung, the dust that covered everything like a gray blanket. "Lord knows what secrets these walls heard," she murmured. Wind pushed through a gap in the window frame. The curtains stirred, somewhere upstairs. A shutter banged once and fell silent. Cole found the kitchen. The pump handle was stiff with disuse, but water still came brown at first, tasting of rust, then running clear. He filled the kettle, set it on the cold stove. No wood in the box, no kindling. He would deal with that tomorrow. When he came back to the parlor, Clara was standing near the door. An old coat hung on a hook beside the framed gray wool, moth-eaten at the collar and cuffs. His father's. Cole had forgotten about it. "Why'd you bring me here?" Clara asked without turning around. "Really? Told you. It's all I've got. You could have left me in town, found me a room at the widow's boarding house. With what money I just signed away 400 acres. She was quiet. Her fingers brushed the sleeve of the old coat. Dust rose and drifted in the lamplight. "You didn't have to do that," she said. "What you did back there at the auction." "I know." "Then why?" Cole looked at the scar on his arm. The sleeve covered it, but he could feel it there. Always felt it. "Because I owed you, and because nobody should be sold like a mule." Clara's hand stilled on the coat sleeve. She stood motionless for a long moment, her back to him, her shoulders rigid under the faded calico. Then her fingers slipped into the inside pocket. Paper rustled. She pulled out a folded sheet, yellowed with age, creased and soft at the edges. Cole watched her unfold it, watched the color drain from her face as her eyes moved across the lines. The lamplight flickered. Her hands began to shake. "What is it?" She did not answer. "Clara," her voice came out thin, strained, like something was caught in her throat. "This is my father's handwriting." She turned to face him. The letter trembled between her fingers. "Why is my father's letter in Silas Sand's coat?" Cole crossed the room, took the letter from her unresisting hands. The ink had faded to brown, but the words were still legible. Careful penmanship, the kind they taught in schoolhouses 40 years ago. "Mr. Sands, I trust you will honor our agreement regarding the land. My family depends upon your word. The money I provided was everything we had saved. Without the 40 acres you promised in return, we will have nothing left. I have always believed you to be a man of integrity. I pray you will not prove me wrong. Yours respectfully, William Hollis." Cole read it twice, 3 times. His father had taken money from the Hollis family, had promised land in return, 40 acres. And then what? The padlocked store, the auction block, Clara standing straight while men called out numbers. He looked at her. She was staring at him with something raw in her eyes, wounded and angry all at once. "My father died broke," she said. Her voice cracked. "We lost the store, lost everything. Mama worked herself sick and never recovered." Her hands curled into fists at her sides. "And all this time, your father owed us land." Cole had no answer. Outside, a coyote howled. The sound drifted through the broken silence, thin and lonesome as a widow's prayer. Clara turned away, walked to the window, pressed her forehead against the cold glass. "What else did he hide?" she whispered. "What else is buried in this house?" The knock came at dawn. Cole had not slept. He had spent the night in the rocking chair by the cold fireplace, turning the letter over in his hands until the paper grew soft at the creases. The words had burned themselves into his mind. He did not need to read them anymore. The knock came again, harder. He crossed to the door, opened it. Judge Whitfield stood on the porch, a wooden box tucked under one arm. Morning light fell gray and pale across his shoulders. His face was grave. "May I come in, Judge?" Cole stepped aside. The judge entered slowly, his boots leaving tracks in the dust. He glanced around at the shrouded furniture, the cobwebs, the lamp still burning low on the mantel, though daylight had come. "Silas asked me to hold on to this." He set the box on the dining table. The wood was dark walnut, polished once but dull now with age. Brass hinges, a small lock that hung open. "Told me to give it to you when you came back. I reckon now's the time." Cole lifted the lid. Papers, dozens of them. Land deeds with official seals, contracts written in faded ink, tax receipts going back 30 years, and beneath it all, a bundle of letters tied with rough twine, the kind used for baling hay. "What is all this?" "Your father's private correspondence." The judge's voice was careful. "I never read them. Wasn't my place." Footsteps on the stairs. Clara appeared at the bottom, her hair loose around her shoulders, the borrowed dress wrinkled. She had not slept either. Cole could see it in the shadows under her eyes. She saw the box, saw the letters. Her face went still. Cole untied the twine. The knot was old, brittle with age. It came apart in his fingers, leaving fibers on his skin. The first letter was dated 1871, 13 years ago. The handwriting was his father's, that cramped, precise script he remembered from childhood lessons at this very table. "William, the money arrived safely. I cannot express my gratitude. Without your loan, I would have lost everything to the bank. The 40 acres on the North Ridge are yours. As we agreed, I will have the deed transferred by spring. Your friend." Silas Cole's throat tightened. The paper felt fragile in his hands, thin as onion skin, smelling of dust and something faintly sweet old ink. Maybe, or the wood of the box. He picked up the next letter, 1872. "William, I apologize for the delay. The surveyor has taken ill. The deed will be ready soon. You have my word as a Christian man." The next, 1873. "William, there has been a complication with the title. I am working to resolve it. Please be patient. I have not forgotten my promise." Cole spread the letters across the table. 1874, 1875, 1876. Each one carried a new excuse, a new delay, a new promise made and broken. Clara moved closer. Her hand trembled as she picked up a letter near the bottom of the stack. The paper crackled under her fingers. "This one is from my father," she said. Her voice was flat, empty. She read it aloud. "Mr. Sands, I have written to you 7 times without reply. My wife is ill. The store is failing. I need those 40 acres to sell, or we will lose everything we have built. Please, I am begging you. We had an agreement. I trusted you. William Hollis." The date was 1877, 7 years before Clara stood on an auction block, somewhere in the house. A clock Cole had not noticed began to tick, steady, relentless, counting seconds that could not be taken back. Cole picked up the last letter in the stack. It was unopened, the wax seal unbroken. He turned it over. The return address read, Hollis, Stillwater, Montana Territory. "He never opened it," Clara whispered. Cole broke the seal. The wax crumbled like dried blood. He unfolded the paper. "Mr. Sands, my husband passed away last night. His heart gave out. The doctor says it was the strain. But I know better. It was the worry that killed him. The disappointment. I am writing to inform you that I intend to pursue legal action to recover what is owed to us. My daughter Clara will deliver this letter to you personally. May God forgive you, for I cannot. Margaret Hollis. Cole looked at Clara. Her face had gone white as the sheets covering the furniture. I remember that day, she said. Her voice cracked like the old paper in his hands. Mama gave me the letter, told me to bring it here. She swallowed hard. I knocked on that door for 10 minutes. Nobody answered. Cole stared at the unopened envelope, the broken seal. His father had received the letter, had held it in his hands, had chosen not to read it, had chosen to ignore a widow's plea. The clock ticked on. The morning light crept across the floor. Judge Whitfield cleared his throat. I should go. You two have much to discuss. He moved toward the door, paused with his hand on the frame. For what it's worth, Cole, I never knew about any of this. Silas kept his secrets close, even from old friends. The door closed behind him. The sound echoed through the empty house. Cole and Clara sat in silence. The letters lay scattered between them like fallen leaves, like evidence at a trial where all the defendants were dead. Outside, the morning stretched on. Birds began to sing. A rooster crowed somewhere in the distance, answered by another farther away. Tell me about him, Cole said finally. Your father... Clara was quiet for a long moment. Her fingers traced the edge of one of the letters. He was kind, she said. Too kind. Maybe believed the best in folks, even when they didn't deserve it. She paused. Used to say a man's word was worth more than gold. That if you couldn't trust a handshake, you couldn't trust anything. Cole closed his eyes. The chair creaked beneath him. Silas was the opposite. Hard as granite. Never apologized for anything his whole life. He opened his eyes, looked at the letters. I always figured he was just stubborn, proud. Now I reckon he was hiding something rotten. Clara met his gaze. The lamplight caught the wetness in her eyes, but she did not cry. Reckon they both took their secrets to the grave, she said quietly. Not all of them. The words hung between them. Clara stood, walked to the window, pressed her palm flat against the cold glass. There's more, she said. There has to be. This explains why we lost the store, but it doesn't explain why Dunmore came after me. She turned to face him. The store's debts were settled years ago. Mama sold everything to pay them before she died. Cole frowned. Then what does Dunmore want? Clara's eyes were hard now, determined. He said I owed the bank money, a loan my father took out in 1876. She shook her head slowly. But my father never borrowed from banks. He didn't believe in it, said it was a trap for honest folks. Cole looked at the box on the table, the paper still inside. He reached in, pulled out the remaining documents. Land deeds, tax records, and at the very bottom, a single sheet with Ezra Dunmore's signature at the bottom. He read it once. His blood went cold. Clara. His voice came out strange, tight. Did your father ever sign anything for the bank? Anything at all? Her eyes widened. No, never. Cole held up the paper. Then why does this say William Hollis borrowed $500 from Dunmore's bank? He turned it so she could see. And why is my father listed as the witness? Main Street was busy when they arrived. Wagons rolled past, wheels creaking against the hard-packed dirt. A dog trotted along the boardwalk, nose to the ground. The smell of fresh bread drifted from the bakery on the corner, mixing with horse manure and the dust that never seemed to settle. Cole walked beside Clara, matching her pace. She had borrowed one of his mother's old dresses from the cedar chest upstairs, plain gray cotton, too big in the shoulders, but clean. She had pinned her hair back, her chin was up, her eyes were forward. People noticed. A woman in a yellow bonnet stopped mid-sentence to stare. Her companion turned to look. Two men on the boardwalk fell silent as Cole and Clara passed, their conversation dying like a candle snuffed out. Cole felt their eyes, felt the weight of their judgment pressing against his back. He kept walking, The general store, the new one, not the Hollis place, sat at the end of the block. A bell jingled as they pushed through the door. The smell of coffee beans and leather and dried goods filled the air. Barrels of flour lined one wall. Tins of lard sat stacked on shelves. A jar of peppermint sticks caught the light from the window. The shopkeeper looked up from behind the counter, middle-aged, balding, spectacles perched on his nose. His smile faded when he saw Clara. "Morning," Cole said. "We need flour, salt, coal oil." The shopkeeper's eyes moved from Cole to Clara and back again. His hands stayed flat on the counter, not reaching for anything. "Ain't got what you need," he said. "Try elsewhere." Cole's jaw tightened. "The shelves are full. I can see the flour from here." "Sold. All of it? Got orders to fill?" A lie. They both knew it. Clara turned toward the door. "Let's go." Cole did not move. "We'll pay double." The shopkeeper shook his head. His eyes would not meet Cole's. "Can't help you, mister. Best move along." Clara's hand found Cole's elbow. Her grip was firm, insistent. He let her pull him out. The street felt different now, hostile. The whispers were louder, or maybe he was just hearing them better. Words drifted past auction and Sands and shame and ought to know better. Clara walked faster. Her shoulders were rigid. Her hands curled into fists at her sides. "Clara, don't." Her voice was tight, controlled. "Just keep walking." They were halfway to the next block when a shadow fell across their path. Ezra Dunmore stepped out from the doorway of the bank. His blue vest was pressed and spotless. A gold watch chain hung across his belly. His boots were polished to a shine that reflected the morning sun. "Mr. Sands." He smiled, but it did not reach his eyes. "Miss Hollis." "What a pleasant surprise." Cole stopped. Clara stopped beside him. "Dunmore." The banker clasped his hands behind his back, rocked on his heels like a man without a care. "I've been thinking about our transaction," he said. "The auction. Transaction's done." "Is it?" Dunmore tilted his head. "I'm not so certain. Land transfers require proper documentation, surveys, witnesses, signatures in the right places." His smile widened. "I'd advise you to reconsider your position. Mr. Sands, the law is on my side." Cole's hands curled into fists. His nails dug into his palms. "What do you want?" "Want." Dunmore spread his hands, palms up, the picture of innocence. "I want what's owed to me. Miss Hollis signed a labor contract, a binding agreement. Your generous offer may not hold up in territorial court." Clara's breath caught. Cole heard it a small sound, quickly swallowed. "You can't," she started. "I can." Dunmore's voice hardened. The mask slipped. Underneath was something cold. "And I will, unless certain accommodations are made." Cole stepped forward. His boots thudded against the boardwalk. "What kind of accommodations?" "The full 400 acres, signed over properly, with interest." Dunmore's eyes glittered. "That should settle things." A door opened across the street. "That's enough." The voice was sharp, female, steady as iron. Cole turned. A woman stood in the doorway of the dressmaker's shop. Silver hair pulled back in a tight bun, a flour-dusted apron tied around her waist. Her face was lined with age, but her eyes were clear and hard as flint. Martha Brennan. Cole remembered her now. His mother had bought fabric from her shop every spring until the day she died. Martha crossed the street. Her steps were quick, deliberate. Her skirt swished against the dust. "Martha," Dunmore said smoothly, "this doesn't concern—" "Clara Hollis sewed my daughter's wedding dress." Martha's voice cut through his words. "Sewed it with her own 2 hands when our house burned and we had nothing left but the clothes on our backs. Wouldn't take a penny for it." She stopped beside Clara, shoulder to shoulder. "Anyone speaks ill of this girl, they speak ill of me. You hear that? Dunmore." The banker's smile flickered. His eyes darted to the gathering crowd. Another door opened. Old Tom Garrett stepped out from the feed store, white beard, work-worn hands, a slight limp from the leg he had broken years ago. William Hollis gave me credit for 2 years when the drought killed my crops, he said, never charged interest, never asked for payment until I could afford it. A third figure emerged, young widow Sarah Caldwell. Her husband had died in a mining accident 3 winters past. She held her infant son against her hip. Clara taught my boys their letters, she said quietly. After their father passed, when I couldn't afford the schoolhouse fees, one by one, they gathered, 5 people, then 7, then 10, shopkeepers and farmers and women in faded calico, people who remembered, people who had not forgotten the kindness of a family that had lost everything. Dunmore's face had gone pale. His hands dropped to his sides. "This isn't over," he said. His voice had lost its smoothness. "The law ain't the only thing that matters in this town." Martha said, "Now get." Nobody moved. Then Dunmore turned on his heel, walked away. His footsteps echoed off the buildings. His shoulders were stiff, his hands clenched at his sides. He did not look back. The crowd began to break apart. Martha touched Clara's arm, brief, gentle, then returned to her shop without another word. Old Tom tipped his hat. Sarah Caldwell smiled and shifted her baby to her other hip. Clara stood motionless. Her eyes were wet, but she was not crying. "I didn't know," she whispered. "I didn't know they remembered." Cole watched Dunmore's figure disappear around the corner. "He's not done," he said quietly. "You know that." Clara nodded, wiped her eyes with the back of her hand. "I know." They stood in the late morning light, surrounded by the echoes of old kindnesses and the shadow of a threat that had not yet taken its final shape. Dunmore knew something worth fighting for, and whatever it was buried deeper than 400 acres of Montana dirt. Rain hammered the roof like 1,000 fists. Cole stood in the upstairs hallway, listening to the water pound the tin above his head. The sound filled the house, drowning out everything else, the creak of old boards, the scurry of mice in the walls, the wind pushing through gaps in the window frames. Clara sat in the parlor below, mending a tear in her sleeve by lamplight. He had watched her for a moment before climbing the stairs, the needle moving in and out, steady, patient, like she had done this 1,000 times before. He needed more evidence, something to prove the loan document was forged, something to destroy Dunmore in court before the man destroyed them. The trunk in his father's bedroom. He had not searched it yet. The room smelled of dust and mouse droppings and something else, old wool, maybe, or the particular mustiness of a space that had been closed up too long. Cole knelt beside the trunk. The hinges were stiff with age and rust. He had to force the lid open, the wood groaning in protest. Inside moth-eaten blankets, folded with care, a woman's shawl, his mother's. He realized, the smell of lavender still clinging to the wool after all these years, a Bible with a cracked leather spine, and beneath it all, a layer of fabric lining the bottom. Cole lifted the fabric. A letter lay underneath, folded small, sealed with wax that had never been broken. No address, no stamp, never sent. He cracked the seal. The wax crumbled between his fingers. He unfolded the paper. His father's handwriting, but different somehow, looser, less controlled. The writing of a man who had stopped caring, who might read his words. "I write this for no one, perhaps for myself, perhaps for the Almighty. If he still listens to men like me, Margaret chose William. I knew she would. He was kind where I was hard, gentle where I was sharp. She saw through me from the beginning, and she chose the better man." I told myself I would honor my promise regardless. The 40 acres were his by right. He had earned them with his trust and his money, but I could not do it. Every time I looked at that deed, I saw her face. I saw the life she chose instead of me. I saw the children she would bear for another man. Children that should have been mine, so I delayed, made excuses. Let the years slip past like water through my fingers. William wrote to me 7 times before he stopped. His wife wrote once. After his death, I did not open her letter. I could not bear to see Margaret's handwriting, could not bear to know that she thought of me at all, even in anger. I have destroyed a family because I could not destroy my own pride, because I could not forgive a woman for not loving me. God forgive me. I cannot forgive myself. The letter ended there. No signature, no date. Cole's hands were shaking. He read it again, the words blurred. His chest felt tight, like something was pressing against his ribs from the inside, squeezing the air out of him one breath at a time. His father had loved Clara's mother, had been rejected, had proposed and been refused, and had spent the rest of his life punishing an innocent family for a woman's choice. The letter slipped from Cole's fingers. He did not catch it, did not try. His legs gave out. He sat down hard on the floor, his back against the wall, the cold of the boards seeping through his trousers. The room smelled of rot and old secrets and the particular shame of a man who had lived his whole life as a lie. Cole Sands, son of Silas Sands, son of a thief, a liar, a coward who had destroyed lives because a woman did not love him back. Footsteps on the stairs. Clara appeared in the doorway, the lamp in her hand casting long shadows across the cramped room. Her face was worried, uncertain. Cole, I heard something fall. She saw the letter on the floor, saw his face. She crossed to him, knelt, picked up the paper. Cole watched her read it, watched her expression shift from confusion to understanding to something else, something he could not name because he could not bear to look at it directly. When she finished, she set the letter down, placed it on the floor between them like a dead thing. Neither of them spoke. The rain filled the silence. It roared against the roof, against the walls, against everything. He ruined your family. Cole's voice came out wrong, thick, broken, because a woman didn't love him back. Clara said nothing. My whole life. He stared at his hands. They were still shaking. I thought he was just hard, just proud. I left because I couldn't be what he wanted. He swallowed. And all this time, he could not finish. Clara reached out. Her fingers brushed his sleeve. He flinched away. Don't. The word came out harsh. I don't deserve it. I'm his son, his blood. Everything I have comes from what he stole from you. Clara held his gaze. Her face was calm. He's dead. Cole, that doesn't fix anything. No, it doesn't. The lamp flickered. Shadows danced. I'll make it right, he said. The words felt hollow. I'll give you everything. The house. Whatever's left. Clara shook her head. I don't want revenge. I'm tired of living in the shadow of dead men's sins. She stood, brushed the dust from her skirt. What do you want? He asked. I want it to end. The secrets, the debts, the lies. She looked down at him. The lamplight caught her face. Tomorrow, we go to the courthouse. We find the original loan documents. Her voice was steady. If Dunmore forged them, there will be proof. Cole nodded. He did not trust his voice. Clara turned toward the stairs, paused. You're not your father, Cole. Then she was gone. Cole sat alone in the dark room, surrounded by his father's secrets, the rain drumming overhead. And a question formed in his mind, cold and sharp. If Dunmore had forged William Hollis's signature, he needed a sample to copy from. Where had he gotten it? The town hall smelled of pine resin and coal oil. Morning light slanted through the tall windows, catching dust motes that drifted in the still air. Cole stood at the front of the room, facing rows of wooden benches filled with faces he half recognized. Farmers with sun-darkened skin, shopkeepers in pressed shirts, women in their Sunday dresses. Though it was only Thursday, the room was warm with bodies and breath and the particular tension of people waiting to see what would happen next. Judge Whitfield sat behind the raised desk, his gavel resting beside a stack of documents. His face gave nothing away. Ezra Dunmore occupied the front bench, legs crossed, expression smooth. The gold watch chain across his vest caught the light every time he breathed. Clara sat near the back. Her hands were folded in her lap. Her eyes were fixed on Cole. "This hearing will come to order," Whitfield's voice carried easily through the room. "Mr. Sands has requested a formal session regarding the Hollis estate and the disputed labor contract. Mr. Dunmore has filed a counterclaim." He looked at Cole. "You may proceed." Cole's throat was dry. He had not slept, had not eaten. The documents in his hand felt heavier than paper ought to feel. He stepped forward. 3 days ago, I came back to Stillwater to settle my father's estate." His voice sounded strange in the quiet room. "I planned to sell the land and leave. Nothing more." He paused, swallowed. "I didn't expect to find a woman being auctioned in the town square." Murmurs rippled through the crowd. Someone coughed. Miss Clara Hollis was being sold to pay a debt that, according to Mr. Dunmore, came from a loan her father took out in 1876. Cole held up the document. "This loan, $500, witnessed by my father, Silas Sands." Dunmore's expression did not change. His fingers drummed silently against his knee. "The problem," Cole continued, "is that William Hollis never took out this loan." The murmurs grew louder. A baby fussed somewhere in the back. "I have here 7 letters written by William Hollis to my father between 1871 and 1877. Cole walked to the judge's desk, laid the letters down one by one. "His signature appears on each. Compare them to the signature on that loan document." Judge Whitfield picked up the papers. His eyes moved between them. His brow furrowed deep. "The signatures don't match," Cole said. "The loan was forged." Dunmore rose from his seat. "Your Honor, this is absurd. Mr. Sands is attempting to—" "Sit down, Mr. Dunmore." The judge's voice was sharp as a blade. "You'll have your turn." Dunmore sat. His jaw was tight. A vein pulsed at his temple. Cole turned to face the crowd. His heart hammered against his ribs. "But that's not all." He reached into his coat. His fingers found the final document, the one he had discovered in his father's desk, hidden beneath a false bottom. "This receipt shows that Ezra Dunmore purchased 40 acres from my father in 1876. 40 acres that belonged to William Hollis." The room went silent. Even the baby stopped fussing. "My father promised that land to William Hollis as repayment for a loan. A real loan. One that Dunmore witnessed." Cole's voice grew stronger, steadier. "My father broke his promise. He sold the land to Dunmore instead." He looked at the banker. Dunmore's face had gone pale beneath the smooth surface. "And when William Hollis died, Dunmore saw his chance. He forged a loan document to claim what was left of the Hollis estate. He used a grieving daughter's desperation to steal what wasn't his. This is slander." Dunmore was on his feet. "I demand. I'm not finished." Cole pulled out the last letter, the confession, his father's final secret. "My father was not innocent." His voice cracked. He cheated the Hollis family. He sold their land. He let them suffer while he prospered. He held up the letter, but he knew what Dunmore planned. He wrote it all down. Names, dates, everything. Cole looked at Dunmore. "He was going to expose you. That's why you wanted my land so badly. You knew this letter existed." Dunmore lunged forward. "Give me that." 2 men in the front row caught his arms, held him back. Cole did not flinch. "My father was a thief," he said. "A liar, a coward." He turned to face the judge. "But I am not him, and I will not let his sins continue." He placed the letter on the desk. "I'm signing over 200 acres to Clara Hollis. The land her family was owed. The debt my father should have paid." The crowd erupted. Voices overlapped. Someone was crying. Judge Whitfield pounded his gavel. Once, twice, 3 times. Silence. "The evidence is clear." The judge's voice was heavy, final. "Mr. Dunmore, you will surrender all claims against the Hollis estate. Charges of fraud will be filed in territorial court." Dunmore sagged. The fight drained out of him like water from a cracked bucket. Cole turned, found Clara through the crowd. She was standing. Her face was wet, but she was smiling. He walked toward her. She met him halfway. "It's done," he said. Clara nodded. Her hand found his. "Almost." Her voice was quiet. "There's one more thing. At my mother's grave." The cemetery sat on a hill east of town, where the morning sun touched the headstones first. Clara knelt before a simple marker. White stone, no ornamentation, just a name and 2 dates carved deep into the rock. Margaret Hollis, 1835 to 1879. The grass around the grave was overgrown. Wildflowers had pushed up through the soil, purple and yellow and white. Bees hummed among them, heavy with pollen. "She kept this," Clara said. She pulled something from her pocket. A small tin box, rusted at the edges. Cole crouched beside her. The ground was damp. He could smell the earth, rich and dark. Inside the box was a photograph, faded, creased from being folded and unfolded many times. A young woman in a white dress stood between 2 men in their Sunday clothes. Cole recognized his father immediately. The rigid posture, the unsmiling mouth. Younger, but already hard. The other man was softer, kinder looking. He stood closer to the woman, their shoulders almost touching. "That's my father," Clara said. "And yours. And my mother. The day before she made her choice." Cole stared at the 3 faces, 3 people at a crossroads, 2 futures hanging in the balance. "She kept it all these years." Clara nodded. "I found it when I buried her. Never understood why." She closed the box, set it on the grave. "Now I do." A meadowlark called from somewhere in the tall grass. Another answered from farther away. "She loved them both," Clara said quietly. "In different ways. She chose the one who would love her back without conditions." Cole said nothing. There was nothing to say. They stayed there until the sun climbed higher and the dew dried on the grass. Then Clara stood, brushed the dirt from her skirt, and started down the hill. Cole followed. A week passed. The house felt different now, cleaner. The windows sparkled where Clara had scrubbed away years of grime. The parlor smelled of lemon oil and fresh air. She had planted something in the garden, herbs, maybe, or flowers, something green pushing up through the dark soil. Morning light crept through the curtains as Cole packed his bag. The leather was cracked, the buckle tarnished. Same bag he had carried off the train a lifetime ago. Footsteps on the stairs. Clara appeared in the doorway, 2 tin cups in her hands, steam rising from the coffee. The smell filled the room, strong and bitter, the way his mother used to make it. "Porch," Cole nodded. They sat on the top step, shoulders almost touching. The yard stretched before them, brown dirt giving way to green grass giving way to the hills that rolled toward the mountains, 200 acres each. The papers had been signed. Judge Whitfield had witnessed. It was done. Cole wrapped his hands around the warm cup. The heat seeped into his palms. "The ranch in Wyoming needs hands," he said. "I promised I'd be back by summer." Clara sipped her coffee, did not look at him. "How long? 3 months, maybe 4, before the leaves turn." A rooster crowed somewhere in the distance. A dog barked, then fell silent. "I'll come back," Cole said, "if you don't mind." Clara was quiet. Her finger traced the rim of her cup. "You've got 200 acres here." Her voice was careful, measured. "Seems like reason enough." "I've got more than one reason." She looked at him then, really looked, her eyes searching his face for something truth, maybe, or the shadow of a lie. Cole set his cup down. The wood of the porch was warm beneath his hands. 10 years ago, you stitched me back together in a cabin in the middle of nowhere. You left before I could learn your name." He paused. "I spent a decade wondering who you were." "Oh." Clara's hands tightened around her cup. "I was scared," she said. "You were a stranger. I didn't know what you'd want when you woke. I would have said thank you." "I know that now." The meadowlark sang again. The sun climbed higher, warming the back of Cole's neck. Clara reached out. Her fingers found his arm, rested on the sleeve that covered the scar she had made 10 years before. "Last time I stitched you up and ran." Her voice was barely a whisper. "I was 18, alone." Her hand pressed against the fabric. He felt the warmth of her palm through the cotton. "This time I'm not running." Cole covered her hand with his. They sat there on the porch of a house that had held too many secrets. The coffee cooled, the sun rose, the meadowlarks sang to an audience of two. Cole stood, walked to the hitching post where his horse waited, swung up into the saddle. Clara remained on the porch, one hand raised against the sun. 3 months, he said. "I'll hold you to that." When he touched the brim of his hat, turned the horse toward the road, he did not look back, but he knew she was watching. For the first time in 10 years, Cole Sands knew exactly where he belonged. There is something quiet that stays with us after a story like this one. Not a lesson, not a message we need to carry forward, just a feeling heavy in the chest, tender around the edges, the kind of feeling that does not ask to be understood. Many of us have stood where Cole stood, returning to places we thought we had left behind, finding that the past was waiting there all along, patient as stone. Some of us have been Clara too, carrying burdens we did not choose, standing straight when everything around us wanted us to bend. We know what it is to love someone who cannot love us back the way we need. We know what it is to inherit the mistakes of those who came before. And perhaps we know, better than we would like, how hard it is to forgive others and ourselves. This story does not need to be resolved. It is allowed to rest now, the way old letters rest in forgotten drawers, the way names on headstones rest under morning sun. Not everything needs to be fixed. Some things just need to be held gently, then let go. Thank you for staying until the end. It is enough that you were here.